It's Mitzi and Mike, and this is Wave Social Podcast powered by Arcade Studios, a show for marketers, creators, entrepreneurs, and brand builders who want to make waves online.
We sit down with the experts and tastemakers behind today's up-and-coming brands. And today on the show, we have Alyssa Lau, founder of New Classics. But first, we got to talk about some merch.
Let's do it. This season, backed by popular demand, we have another candle.
EOD.
This one is EOD, stands for
End of Day. Yeah, our candles have been one of our best sellers, and we're really excited about this one. We feel like we've kind of fine-tuned as we went. So since this is number 3, it's that three-peat. It's that third time's the charm. But the description on it is, this scent is serving looks great, no revisions, and empty inbox energy. So if that's what you need, grab a candle, light it up.
You can get it at wavesocialpodcast.com. And if you're new around here, we don't do ads. Instead, we do merch. So if you'd like to support the podcast, check out the merch on wavesocialpodcast.com.
All right, back to Alyssa.
Let's talk about her. That was a great episode. I loved chatting with her because she's one of the OG content creators, like way back early YouTube days.
True.
And what's cool about her, she's been working creating content for herself, and she had a really strong passion for sustainability and fashion, and she turned that passion into a business called New Classics, which is an amazing sustainable marketplace and has really great brands on it, so you should check it out. And
yeah,
that's great.
I thought it was interesting that she built it with her husband Eric, and also that she had a baby along the way. I remember a couple years ago when we had a baby, and just building our business and trying to build a family at the same time. That was quite the trip.
The juggle is real.
Yeah, so we got mad respect for you, Alyssa and Eric.
Yeah, and if you're a content creator and have wanted to create a business, this is a really good episode because she talks about how she built it. And she's from a small town like Edmonton, Alberta, which is pretty small in Canada. So it just kind of goes to show that in this day and age, you can build a really cool, relevant business from anywhere.
I can't handle the fact that you called Edmonton a small town.
It is.
We're gonna get some people in our DMs not happy.
Well, is it not? Okay, a small city.
No, it's a big city, population of 1 million at least.
I don't know. It's small in terms of the rest of Canada.
All right, sorry, Edmontonians.
No shade to Edmonton.
She's from a large city in the prairies of Alberta.
Okay,
anyway, should we get into it?
Yeah, let's go.
Let's welcome Alyssa.
All right, let's do this. Alyssa, welcome to the show. We're so excited to have you.
Thanks, Mike and Mitzi, for having me.
It's going to be fun. I want to start from the beginning. I want to talk about your style blog, Ordinary People. You started back in 2011, which is when style blogs were really popping off. Can you talk to us about why you started a style blog at that time?
Yeah, back in 2011, I was a university student, so I was studying chemistry, and there wasn't much else going on for me. I'm not sure if you guys have been to Edmonton, but Edmonton in 2011 was really nothing to write home about. So I was just looking for something to do other than study, and so my cousin and I started it, and we would take photos of each other in our driveways. We would go back and forth between our houses and take photos of each other, and it was really cute. Pretty embarrassing, but very cute.
I love that.
Yeah.
I think that's so great. I actually grew up in Edmonton, so I know all about that. Especially in the winter, it's a little drab, so you got to find ways to be creative and have something to fill that gap with. And so tell us about the style blog. What did it get some traction? What did it kind of spark for you?
Yeah, for me, as a blogger, I've never really had my blog be number one priority. It's always just kind of been a creative outlet. So for me, because I had a somewhat of a background in web design and photography, the background in web design would be that my cousin taught me all the HTML she knew in elementary school, and so from then on I was making dog websites for my dog, dedicated to my dog, and I was making anime fan sites. All through my teens. It's super embarrassing. But you know what? I was a weeb, and I totally admit to that. I'm not a closet weeb. I can't believe I'm saying that on a podcast. But anyways, so yeah, I had all these skills that I thought I would put to use, and so that's what the blog was. And it was essentially a diary of my life. And sometimes I do go back to read it because it's very interesting to see like what I was experiencing at different points. Like I don't know how bored of studying I was, or I don't know. It's definitely an interesting way that I use to document my life. And yeah, I just kept posting and posting. Eventually, I got like small uh, collaborations here and there, and to me, like that was the most exciting thing because I mean, you're like a girl from Edmonton, and you're like, oh my god, these brands want to send me clothes. They want me to take photos of them, and that was like the most exciting thing. Um, and eventually, I got contacted from Crew Boutique, which is used to be a contemporary women's wear boutique in Edmonton, to model for like their one of their lookbooks, and like that was a huge step, which I actually eventually worked for them. But yeah, it was just through this blog I got a lot of different opportunities, and I'm essentially just very grateful for what it's led the path it's led me down.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm sure, like, looking back as you are like an adult now and a business owner now, you were probably flexing a lot of the muscles that you needed to kind of kick off your business and even maintain your business, especially like now with new classics and all the content that you're creating. So it's pretty cool to see that like evolution. And I think like a lot of people, the fact that everything you've put out there kind of lives on the internet for an unlimited amount of time, that can be kind of embarrassing, but also kind of like cool to see, to actually be able to track the evolution and the growth that you've had.
Yeah, no, for sure. Like before even this podcast, I was looking at my old Tumblr page that I don't know, I had when I was like a preteen to teenager, and I was like, oh my
Hmm.
god, these photos are awful. But you know, like I had to start somewhere. So it is
Absolutely.
very interesting to look at.
Yeah, and nothing wrong with humble beginnings. We all were kind of probably cringy at
Exactly.
that time too. Okay, so let's fast forward a little bit. You had your blog with your cousin. At what point did you start working with Eric?
Yeah, so I met Eric in 2013 playing a game called Guild Wars, and then eventually we started dating in 2014. Did we start dating? Maybe we started dating 20. No, we started dating in 2013. Okay, it's all very blurry. But yeah, I didn't really start working with him. Like he was the one who actually told me to start New Classics in 2014 because at the time I was working in a chemistry lab and I wasn't really quite happy with. Well, I was about to do my master's, and then I decided I didn't want to do that anymore. So he said, like, why don't you open an online store? And to me, that was like a very cliche thing because there had been a lot of bloggers who were trying to open their own stores. And so around that time, my cousin gifted me a book called Naked Fashion. It's got a very long title, something about like the slow fashion revolution and or the sustainable fashion revolution, one of those titles. And so after reading that, that actually really inspired me to start kick off the journey of learning more about sustainability. And so I kind of put the two and two together, and I was like, there really is no avenue for sustainable fashion in Canada right now. And so why don't we try to facilitate that? So yeah.
Around what like year was that?
So New Classics was started October 2014,
Wow,
and I think we like it was like 6 months before when I decided that I wanted to open the store.
that's
Crazy.
amazing. And that's
Thank
pretty
you.
early. Like, I know sustainability now and slow fashion is like a very hot topic. Lots of people are aware of like the impact on the environment that like the textile industry has and things like that. But at the time, that wasn't a message that everyone understood. Did you face any challenges with that, like trying to like introduce not only new classics, a new brand, but also like this new concept of like slow fashion and sustainable fashion?
Yeah, I mean, definitely like one of the main tenets behind New Classics is education and awareness because, um, buying a sustainable organic cotton t-shirt is not going to save the world. What is you as a person, as an individual, as a collective. If we have the proper amount of education and awareness, we can make like properly educated decisions, and we can try to pressure the government to make more sustainable policies, and we can look towards scalable solutions. So we always knew that buying clothing was not the answer, although art and design and fashion is a really great way to kind of provoke the questions. It's not going to solve our sustainability crisis. So we always knew that we wanted New Classics to have kind of a education component, which is why we try to have a lot of information on our website, just to act kind of as like a starting point for people on wherever they are in their sustainability journey.
Totally. Yeah, I've actually gone through those sustainability pages and they're so thorough. It's amazing. Did you write all that?
Yes. I mean, obviously, looking at other sources, but
right, of course. Yeah, I
yeah,
was
it took
really
a long time.
impressed with those
Thank you.
pages. Very good work. For people who might not know, can you walk us or tell us what is New Classics and where people might be able to check it out?
Yeah, I mean, long story short, New Classics is a sustainably driven e-retailer that I started in 2014. So we carry brands that uh, fall under the wide umbrella of sustainability, whether it's making clothing with organic cotton, working with artisans and ethical factories around the world to make their clothing, using recycled materials. So, there is a broad definition of sustainability, that's for sure. And so we just want to make sure that we showcase that with the different designers that we choose to host on New Classics. And so you can find us online at www.newclassics.ca or Instagram at shopnewclassics.
Love it. And I want to talk about how you're working with your partner. Obviously, Mike and I are partners too. We totally understand the dynamics that come with being your business partner's life partner. Talk to us about how that works for you.
Honestly, it's always been really second nature to us. I think that making sure that, I mean, we're very lucky that we've always had a very strong foundation. And, although we've always consistently been working on our communication, like, with all couples, communication is something that you're constantly working on. It's never going to be perfect, but something that I think that's really helped us was actually therapy, which we started going to last maybe 2 years ago. I don't remember, but that's really kind of helped teach us how to listen, because there's listening and then there's listening. So yeah, like I actually asked Eric this the other day. I was like, do you think there's like a difference between our professional and personal relationship? And like, we don't think there is, because at the end of the day, we do have like this profound respect for each other, one that professionals should have and one that partners should have. And I think that we just work really well together. We have most of the same priorities, especially having a baby together. So yeah, I don't think there's it's been great. I'm very lucky that I can work with my partner.
That's how I feel too. I love working with my partner, and I feel like I almost feel empathy towards people that work on their own, like sole proprietors. Obviously, a lot of people are cut out for it. Maybe I'm not, but I think there's something to be said about having that person, whether you have a romantic relationship with them or not, that
Yeah,
you,
it keeps you accountable.
yeah, 100%. And also, you can be good at what you're good at and allow someone else to be strong at what you're not, rather than feeling like you have to get good at things that you're not naturally good at, you know? So,
Yeah, and I mean, like, there will be nobody. I mean, maybe my parents, but Eric's always looking out for my best interest. So I can always trust that if I have a question for him or we have a dilemma, that, we'll be able to figure it out together.
Yeah. And there's no one who, like, if you're married or in a relationship with an entrepreneur, you are already in business with them, in my perspective. So, like,
totally.
what difference does it make whether you're like on the sidelines or more involved? Like I know we get that question all the time too. And we're always like, well, what choice do we have but to support each other fully and put all of our eggs in the same basket? Because we're already doing that.
Exactly.
Can you talk a little bit about your roles between the two of you with New Classics? Like, where are you strong, and what does he bring to the table to offset that?
So Eric and I are very different people in that, like, I'm much more the creative side and he's like the business side. He loves numbers. He loves the stuff that I don't like, which is what makes it work really well also. So and he's also just very, like we'll do photo shoots often, and although he might not like it all the time, I actually never really hear him complain. So he's always there to just support and make sure that I have what I need as like the photographer or the creative director or whatever. So yeah, it's we definitely have very different roles in the business, but it works out.
Nice. How has having a baby impacted your relationship? Well, not your relationship, but your ability to keep up with things work wise, and have like your family stuff and then all the new responsibilities of being a new mom. Like, talk to us about how you've been able to adapt to that kind of transition.
Yeah, oh boy. I mean, that first month of having a newborn was probably one of the hardest things I had to do. And the like sleep is like the backbone of my mental health. So not having that much sleep was killer, first of all, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
But I think, just all of a sudden having no transition period into this new identity of mother was what also was really hard because, for 29 years I had been working out my identity as Alyssa, the Canadian Chinese female, not mother. I was a girlfriend, I was a wife, I was a photographer, creator, and now I have to tack on mother. And to me, that was just such a huge step in some direction. I'm not quite sure yet, but that was really hard after not being one for so long. It sounds weird, but it was just, it's like mind blowing. You're like, oh my God, I'm a mom. So there's that aspect of having to deal with it. As for the business, we were really lucky that we have a really amazing employee by the name of Hannah. And so we'd been kind of setting up the business to run with the least amount of intervention from me as possible. Um, I've always handled the emails though. So, the day after having the baby, I was still answering emails and I was still like making sure things were kind of going somewhat seamlessly behind the scenes. Um, and so, yeah, we were just very lucky that the timing worked out because at this point in the business, we aren't, it's not like we were a startup and we're struggling to pay someone. Like, we've been around since 2014. So I figured, okay, it's about time that we can hire somebody to, send out packages for us. So we're just lucky in the way that the timing worked out.
Yeah, that's a big milestone to be able to
Mm-hmm.
make it so it's not just carried by you, So
Mm-hmm.
you make money while you sleep in a sense,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
which is the beauty of e-commerce as well. Do you think, like, obviously being a mom is still pretty fresh and you're still kind of like figuring it out, but even the what you mentioned about answering emails the day after you gave birth, like that's pretty crazy. But
Yeah.
do you think for you, someone who's really driven by like creativity and entrepreneurship, things like that, was that potentially good for your mental health to be able to just like still be in it?
Yeah, I mean, like, so the first actually 2 months of Jacob's life, so my son, he we lived with my parents. And so that was amazing. And I actually don't know how people do it without help. But
Mm-hmm.
having my parents around to look after him, so Eric and I could go on walks together, eventually go rock climbing, even just go to work was really crucial for me feeling like my body was my own and
Mm-hmm.
not just for my baby.
Yeah.
So having these moments where we could almost even forget that we had a baby, like it was funny. Sometimes we were like, oh, Jacob exists. Okay, we have to go feed him now, or we have to go, take care of him. Just having those moments were really crucial to making that transition from Alyssa, not the mother, to Alyssa, the mother.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, I do want to say that you're doing an amazing job. Like,
Thank you.
having a baby in
Give me
itself.
some advice later.
Yeah, we could do a whole like other whole podcast about this, but I know how hard it is to fight for like figuring out who you are again, in addition to the weight of responsibility for a business and an employee and your livelihood and all the things that come with that, and then the rat race of keeping up with social media and everything else that comes with that. So that in itself is really hard. So you're doing an amazing job for jumping back in, getting help, having like your team around you, your family around you, like all those things are so commendable, and I just have so much respect for you and all moms who like jump back in the saddle. Like not many people can do that.
Absolutely.
Honestly, just moms are just so
I know.
badass. Like,
I know. I know. They are amazing. I had no idea. Like until I
don't.
became a mom. I'm like, "Oh my gosh,
Exactly.
every mom I know is an angel." Like
Yes.
they are incredible.
Yeah, I can't
Um
speak from experience, but I definitely have witnessed it, just being partners with Mitzi and when we had our baby, which is 3 years ago now, which is actually crazy because it feels like just
Fast.
yesterday. But
mhm.
yeah, you don't realize what the human body first off, but like the female body is capable of, but
Yeah.
also not just your body, but your ability to just like bounce back and like juggle so many different things and show up as like not elite, but just like show up in the best version of yourself in so many different capacities is just absolutely
Yeah.
astounding.
You evolve into something different, into
Yeah.
something new and totally
Hmm.
You
unfamiliar. That
realize how much capacity you really have.
yeah, it's
It's true.
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to switch gears here back to New Classics. When you launched back into 2014, what helped you gain some traction? Was it your personal brand that kind of like people trusted and felt like they could, I don't know, like follow and become customers of New Classics? Or was there something else that you did at the time that really helped you get on the map?
So it's interesting because for ever since the beginning of New Classics, I've always tried to keep it quite separate from me as Alyssa, the creator, the influencer, if you will, because I wanted New Classics to be able to outgrow that. I did not want it to be confined to who I was. So I think what really helped New Classics kind of get its foot off the ground was finding our branding. It took like 3 years until we got our first. Oh my god, sorry. It took 3 years before we got our first logo, and
Wow.
after we got that logo, it started to become more apparent who we were as a business and how that would be reflected into our branding. And I think that as soon as we had that crucial puzzle piece, everything kind of just fell into place. And I had read a few books on branding here and there, but I was never really sure what New Classics was for those like 3 years before we finally figured it out. And so I think that's really what the missing piece was. And then, yeah, now here we are.
That's amazing. So why did it take 3 years to get your logo? Was it just like you were going through so many different like styles or like couldn't
I
decide on
just
which one?
I just didn't know, like, just didn't know what New Classics, the essence of New Classics was. So, I mean, if you like could track all our website changes throughout those 3 years, it's actually crazy. Like, I had a friend who was like, "You need to stop. Like, people are not going to know what website they're on," and it's true. But I think a lot of it was also reflected in how fast I was changing at that time. And so, like New Classics is part of me for sure, just in the way that how all the changes it's gone through and how it kind of stabilized, it kind of mimics my identity stabilizing as well. But yeah, it was kind of crazy how much it changed throughout those 3 years.
That's fun. If you were launching New Classics today, how would you do it differently or would you do anything differently?
Like I'm a firm believer in that in order to get to where you are, you have to make a lot of mistakes and you have to have
Mhm.
a lot of different experiences, experiment, all this stuff. So I don't think I would do anything differently because I think in order to be where I am, I'd have to make the same mistakes over again. And so to save myself from that embarrassment and all that stuff, then I think I would just do everything or, keep it the same.
That's
Nice.
great. Maybe a different angle to a similar topic, but what was the thing that really got you the most traction when it came to marketing or just getting things off the ground with New Classics, especially given that you hadn't really figured out the essence yet or even like what
Hmm.
that visual identity looked like?
So something that I've always found really important to our marketing, and this is something that I learned as a creator as well, was just having quality photos, having quality content. And so it's kind of like linking this back to myself as a creator, I always figured that, if I'm putting stuff out that I think is quality stuff, then someone will notice it. Like, I don't know, I didn't really need to be noticed because it wasn't my full-time job, if that makes sense. But I figured, if people wanted to work with me, it would be because my photography or something of the sort. So that's something that I really tried to also incorporate in New Classics marketing, was just always making sure that the content that we put out was of like a high quality caliber. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
not saying like our photos are the most amazing, but we do work to make sure that we are trying to have a diverse um, amount of content. Not a diverse amount, but just having content that plays to different people, to different things, but also just making sure that it is not taken on a phone, which is fine. Like phone quality is great nowadays, but that's just not who we are as New Classics. So
Yeah. And on the topic of content, like, do you guys shoot all of that in house?
yeah, so it's great to be working on New Classics because I have all these different backgrounds that help New Classics run smoothly, if that makes sense. So we do all of our photo shoots. Like, I think we actually just finished up our last photo shoot for the season, which is fantastic. Less work off on my back now. But yeah, so we do all the photo shoots in house. Most of the web design is done by me unless it's too complicated, which a lot of it is most of the time. So then we outsource. But yeah.
That's impressive. You do all I didn't know that you did the web design too.
Thank you.
Nice. Okay, on I guess still on the topic of content, in addition to all of this that you're doing, you're also on YouTube, which to me is like a whole other beast of its own. Like I can keep up with social, but like YouTube feels pretty like intimidating, so big and
That's how I
expansive.
feel about TikTok.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean like TikTok is a whole other beast too. So you've got like lots of different topics on your YouTube, from makeup looks to fashion, day in the life, self-care. What made you decide, like, or how do you decide what to talk about on YouTube?
I mean, for me, YouTube is definitely more of like it's kind of similar to my blog in that it's like a creative diary. So,
Mm.
like, for example, I don't really go on YouTube that much aside to watch like K-pop videos. I don't really follow
Love it.
any YouTubers religiously. Um, so what I like to use YouTube for is to just like, I love editing videos. I think it's so much fun, and so for me, it's just something fun to do. So
Mhm.
um, sometimes I'll look at a photo, makes me feel some way, and then I'll get an idea for a video. And so then I make poor Eric film it for me. I think he's very good about filming for me, but he'll just be like, I have no idea what's going on. And then I make the video and he goes, oh, like that's what this was for. And so for YouTube, it's just more so me trying to expand my creative horizons, or even just document like different parts of my life. Like I will go back and watch my own travel videos because I'm like, oh my god, this was so much fun. Like I'm reliving it over and over again.
Nice.
And so YouTube, it's just kind of whatever I feel like doing at the time. I don't have any like particular talking points per se. It's just what I'm inspired by and what I want to do.
That's cool. I'm curious. You mentioned that it's like an expression and an outlet for you. So a lot of it is based on what you're interested in, but obviously you're a marketer as well. So there's some element of audience and like speaking to what they're interested in too. Like, does that play a factor in your YouTube content, or is it more so just on the brand side?
I think that's how I used to be for sure. I would always be like, okay, what do people want from me? Up until maybe a few years ago, where I was just like I think most people on Instagram go through a point where they obsess over their numbers, and that was
Mhm.
relatively early on for me. And at some point I was just like, you know what, screw it. People like what I do, they like what I do. Like I'm just gonna leave it at that. And same with my videos. Like I've never really stressed about how many views I get. If brands want to work with me, by all means, like I'm very lucky that they do want to work with me, and I'm very grateful for that. But I haven't really been pushing myself in a certain direction in order to appease a certain audience or to get a certain type of collaboration. I think just having my videos mirror my current interests and inspirations is just a way to showcase myself like authentically in that moment. So yeah, I think I just do what I want now.
That's awesome. I feel like that's ideal,
Yeah.
especially because then, people are subscribing or tuning in because it's you and less because you're just spoon feeding them what they're looking for.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So that's really interesting. Is there any other advice or other strategies that you have that you would pass on to other people that are looking to get into YouTube or launch a YouTube channel?
I mean, I don't know if this is necessarily advice because with YouTube, they definitely reward creators for posting like every week on a scheduled day. And I remember having a call with like a YouTube person, and they were just like, like you should have a schedule, because they were like, if you want to grow your account or your channel, then you're going to have a schedule and you're going to have post every Wednesday at this time so people know what to expect. And I was like, I don't know how people do that because videos take me so long and I'm not willing to sacrifice the quality that I want
Mm-hmm.
in order just to like post. I don't even know what to talk about like every week too, right? Like
Right.
I don't know. I don't think my life is that particularly interesting. So I don't know if this is advice because this goes against what YouTube says, but I really think that focusing on quality is also a great way just not to burn out. So,
Mm-hmm.
just keep in mind, like listen to yourself, to what you want, and just do you.
Yeah. Do
That's good.
you? I love it. When you're thinking of concepts for either like shoots or videos or anything creative that you have to do, what's your process? Like how do you come up with concepts and like what in and inspo? One thing that I've kind of felt, and we've talked to other people on this podcast about it before, just like how everyone's inspired by like the same thing. Like even if you go on Pinterest, like the algorithm is designed to give you things that are popular, so it's really hard to find inspo, at least on social platforms, that is outside of those like predetermined styles. So how do you come up with concepts and inspo?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, the algorithm is. Uh, I I was gonna swear, but um,
You can swear.
the algorithm's a bitch. Let's be real here. But
Mm-hmm.
I think one thing that I'm really grateful for is, I mean, although I don't see the content very regularly because the Instagram algorithm is so like BS, I do really love following photographers, and mostly photographers who are doing really cool things on Instagram, and just seeing their work pop up ever so occasionally, thanks to the stupid algorithm. Um, but a lot of my concepts, it really depends. It's quite variable. Sometimes it's nostalgia. Sometimes it's like a graphic that I saw on Tumblr, which I never go on Tumblr, but occasionally. Um, Sometimes I'm just walking around and I see something. I mean, not to make my process seem like overly hokey pokey, because I think, with most creators, inspiration is everywhere. And so you kind of need to make sure that you're open to different ways of feeling, seeing, thinking, etc. And yeah, I don't even know what I'm talking about at this point. Just being inspired by different things is important.
Yeah. And I think it's something that is almost like a discipline. Would you agree
Mhm.
with that? Like you have to kind of like be disciplined to not just like use Instagram, for example, to like turn your brain off or like
Yeah.
to challenge yourself to look at different perspectives or look for different photographers, things like that.
Yeah, and honestly, like if you have the money, like magazines are such a wonderful way to find emerging photographers, different fashion, different designs. That's kind of like where all the cool kids are, I find nowadays. So, yeah.
I think that's a good point. I feel like I've just been thinking about Mitzi's comment about Pinterest and how it just kind of serves us what everyone just already wants and sees everywhere. And it just is kind of like replicating styles. I feel like that just really increases the importance of true artistry and expression. And like I see that in magazines too. Like I feel like it's editorial on one side and then like artists on another side, and sometimes those have overlap. But I've been appreciating art so much more, especially in the last few years. And I wonder if part of that is just because of how like fatigued I am with what the algorithm is serving me, you know, because it's not necessarily what I'm interested in. It's just similar to everything else that I'm consuming. So I feel like that's a really important topic. And I like your approach in light of that, because even though it's maybe a little bit less calculated in terms of like marketing strategy, it's so much more true to you, but also more unique to your listeners or your followers or your YouTube subscribers, whatever it may be. So I love that.
When it comes to producing your own content, like for new classics, are there any like lessons you can share that you've learned from shoots, or any mistakes that you've made that you can like give some advice around for people who are maybe doing their own shoots?
Well, on the more practical side, there's no such thing as over preparing for a shoot. Like I definitely most of the shoots we do, I'm very under prepared, and then I'm just like sweating and like stressed out, and I can't think properly, and I'm like I don't know what to do. So, just making sure you're prepared. Um, Unless you're just like me and you procrastinate or everything's last minute or you have a baby and you're late because of that. So on the more practical side, yes, like prepare, have all your inspiration ready in case you, I don't know, forget how you want the model to pose or forget the vibe that you're going for. Um, but yeah, I think just making sure, going back to what we were talking about earlier, um, just making sure that you're open to different avenues of inspiration, and definitely not just digital avenues, because a lot of, again, we're talking about this social media, it instills this sense of, sorry, my dog is really snoring loudly, but
I love
I
that.
think with social media, a lot of times everyone's kind of in this competition to do better, to do more, to do faster, and it can make us as creators feel just not incompetent, really. Not worthy. So I think that it's really important that a lot of times we can disconnect and that we find inspiration in other places, again, to prevent burnout or to just stay in tune with who we are and not get lost in the sea of likes and regrams. I don't know. Do people have regrams still?
I think they do. Or reshares too.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Oh God, Instagram's a mess.
I know. You worked with some really amazing, incredible brands like Chanel and Mac. For lots of creators and influencers out there, those would be dream collaborations and partnerships. Could you give any advice to how to, like, if someone's listening and aspires for those kind of partnerships for their own accounts, what goes into that, and any advice you'd give for people who want that?
So I definitely count myself very lucky and grateful to be able to work with Mac and Chanel and all the brands who do want to work with me. And I think that I kind of touched on this already, but just making sure that what you're posting, you're not posting because Instagram wants you to post once a day and because, that will beat the algorithm or all this like weird stuff. You're posting because what you want to post genuinely speaks to you, or you really love your work. Like I think that it's really important. Brands nowadays, they want to see people, well, I won't say all brands, but many brands want to see people be authentic to themselves on social media, because social media is such a fake place. So when
Yeah.
you find someone who's just posting what they want to post, um, who is very raw and genuine in their photos as much as you can be in a 2D photo, then I think that's when brands really take notice. Like what sets yourself apart from other creators, that's really important too. We really need to play to our strengths as individuals. We can't keep copying the people like the Jenners of the world, like Kylie, Kendall Jenner. I feel like it's kind of crazy how they have their own aesthetic now and how you see so many people replicate that. But like we should be really focusing on what makes us who we are, because that's what's going to set you apart from everybody else at the end of the day. So I don't know if that's necessarily like great advice. It's kind of very general advice, but yeah.
No, I think it's important. And there's like a bit of a common theme throughout this conversation about just being who you are through your content and through your professional expression. And I think that's really important. There's been a common theme for us in other conversations too, for entrepreneurs or artists or whoever it is that we have on the show, that they had relationships, whether it was mentoring relationships or family or a partner who's also their husband or wife, who imparted wisdom to them at some point that just stuck with them, like whether it was a one liner or a story or a piece of advice. Has there been anything like that for you that someone said to you at one point, whether a mentor or someone else, that you love to pass on to other people that you could share with our listeners?
I mean, I can't recall like a specific saying, but my mom has always been my role model. So just kind of seeing her work ethic and her just, she's kind of had a very interesting career. So from her and from just being in sports actually is a really great way to learn this, is just reframing failure as not failure but the first step into experimentation, into whatever new path, into your new career. I think, talking to Eric a lot, because he did not have the same childhood as me, and he, for a lot of his youth, felt that he didn't want to try new things because he was afraid to fail, whereas for me failure was always exciting because it's inevitable with experimentation. And so I think that just how we frame failure in our lives is integral to how we progress as not only creatives but individuals, people who are constantly growing and changing. So just accept, the sooner we accept it as a part of life, the better life will be for everyone.
I love that.
Yeah.
That speaks to me now. Okay, we're getting to the end here. We'd like to ask all of our guests on the show, who is making waves? It could be a brand, it could be a creator, it could be a photographer, but who's someone that you're really paying attention to right now and why?
Okay, this is really bad, but I'm going to Google their Instagram.
Just do it.
I love that.
Leslie Zhang. I mean, I'm sure that you've seen their work on Instagram, but honestly, one of my favorite photographers. They're a Chinese photographer, and a lot of their work, especially the original work, was kind of touched on like old Chinese aesthetic. And so, as someone who grew up in a predominantly Caucasian neighborhood, being able to be brought back to my roots through photography like this is like, it's mind blowing. I don't know if that's like the right word I'm looking for, but I think that their work is absolutely beautiful. So I would definitely check them out.
All right.
What's the handle?
Oh, okay. Yeah. Sorry. That's what I searched it up for. Leslie Zhang, 1992.
Okay.
Nice.
We'll make sure that's in our show notes.
Love it.
Yeah. Lastly, we want to make sure our listeners know where they can connect with you after this.
Yeah. You can find me on my favorite social media app, Instagram, at I'm Alyssa Lau, or email. People use email still, right? I'm alyssalau@gmail.com.
100%. I feel like email is going to be the last one standing, probably. Yeah, that's my favorite place to be these days. But Alyssa, thank you so much. This was really a great conversation. We know you got a lot going on, so to take the time out of your schedule as a mom and as a business leader and as an artist, that's really valuable to us. So we're excited to keep in touch after this, but for now, thank you, and we hope you have a great day.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Mike and Mitzi.